Okay, thank you everyone for attending. Hopefully it will be on time. We're having a little bit of technical issues, and it won't be as interactive as we hoped. But let's see if we can make the best of the situation. So welcome to the this year network webinar. I want to thank Alexis Servo for organizing this. It's really a collaboration between the network and the Foster project. I'm going to start really with a slide that, in case we really lose the connection or we have problems, so that you have the information to run away with and you get the main message. And this is really what this webinar is all about, is can we offer you a concept that helps you improve the competitiveness of your research grants. This is, some of you may recognize, if you cannot read the text, there is a button on the bottom right of the slide. You can enlarge the whole screen and read clearly. Some of you may recognize this, those of you that have applied for research grants. This comes from the review process. This is the feedback that we get from reviewers on how good or bad our research grants are. So those of you who have applied, you may recognize the format. This is what we get in return. This is also on one particular criterion, which is impact in this case. And you can see highlighted in yellow some evidence if and how open science can provoke positive comments through the review process, and I let you judge whether that's a competitive advantage or not. The details on how you may want to design a provocation like this are below the image. Everything that we're about to show you comes either from personal experience of young scientists or from the Foster project, collective intelligence on how you can develop science for your competitive advantage. So, should the connection go down or audio go down, you have the main information. For those of you willing to invest the next 45 minutes or so to get the details, we can jump into the presentation. So, here it is, first joint webinar. My name is Ivo Grigorov. I'm a marine scientist by training, but currently assisting marine researchers, climate researchers, in funding their good ideas. And open science is just a side interest that has become, of course, more and more as planned on the political agenda and is now part of many funders' core requirements. So what I'm about to show you here is really the result of a project that ran for 2 years, and show you the highlight that we did in the research proposal. Of course, originally we wanted to help attendees specifically writing proposals, and that is limited in terms of practicalities for webinar. So those of you attending the European Bioscience Union Conference in Vienna in April, I'm running a 3-hour open science clinic where you can register, come along with your specific grant proposal, and in confidential, strictly in confidential terms, we can discuss how we can apply some of the lessons learned here. So, without further ado, what is this concept we're trying to sell you about? Open science is basically an umbrella term. This is the simplest and most visual way to sell it. It encompasses many things, concepts, practices, but what unifies them is their relevance to your research workflow and also adding impact to your research workflow. If you want a complete reference, here is one good description of it. It's all about making all of your research output widely accessible in the right format to the community itself that works in your area, but also beyond to the business sector, beyond society at large. And funders, the main funders, really believe in it. The point where they have mandates asking applicants to do apply those practices to various people. Just to show you one statement, political statement, the people running the resources and funding agency do believe in this, and they are not afraid to express it on social media and otherwise. And I have just chosen one example, which for many of you, it might resonate. Some time ago, the digital domain disrupted the music industry, and research funders now believe that the internet and digital science will have similar effect on how we perform it and how we make it more useful for society, socio-economic impact. So why should we care as research about what the funders say and believe? All of these concepts seem very much outside of the lab and distant and difficult to relate to your daily work. So before I answer that question, I would like to invite someone to give you their point of view. And that someone is Paola Masuzzo. She's a young researcher practicing many of the concepts that we'll try and introduce you to in this webinar. And I would just like to give her a few minutes so that you can hear from her that impacts her research. So, Paola?
Thank you, Ivo, very much for the introduction. I hope everybody can hear me well enough. So first of all, I would like to point out that as a young researcher, Open Science has already done a lot of things for me and for my career. So basically, I finished my PhD only 5 months ago, and I started being a postdoc on a European project on a winning grant proposal for the Horizon 2020 research framework that is trying to build a framework to exchange open data in cell migration and to some extent into cell biology, something that is still lacking very much for the life sciences. So one of the things that I would like to show you today is that how practically you can actually implement open science in your daily routine. Of course, I could talk about it for hours, but because this has to be just a snappy message for you to take home, I will just show you 3 main things that are really part of my daily scientific research cycle, let's say. So first of all, I deal with a lot of data, and I deal with a lot of analytical routines to actually process this data, because my background is a computational background. So no matter which kind of data you deal with or which kind of research question you try to answer in your everyday research life, I find it extremely important to manage, archive, and possibly open up, share your data into a structured framework. Personally, there are many of these frameworks. I like very much the Open Science Framework for the Center of Open Science, where you can keep all your projects. You can choose to make them private and then open them up when you feel like you are ready to open them up to the public. And everything is open for comments, for feedback, and you can keep versioning of your analytical routines and everything that you have used to answer a specific biological or a specific research question. So if you have not done that yet, I invite you to have a look at the Open Science Framework, because the possibilities there are really, really great. And then, because as I was mentioning, my background is a computational background, I deal with a lot of code. Now, of course, if you want to do open science, as Ivo was mentioning, there are a few aspects you have to take into account, and there are a few points of view that you can tackle when talking about open science. And certainly open software for more reliable scientific results is one of these. So personally, and this is something that here it's a standard procedure in my research laboratory, we all make our code available. So I do have, everybody has a GitHub profile. This is a snapshot of my GitHub profile where I keep all my repositories with all my code. And this is cool because first of all, it's my personal way to have a look day by day at my progress and what I'm trying to achieve. But it's also nice because this open code and free software increases the chance for your software and for your work to get visibility, to get cited, to actually collaborate with other people who might be interested in building upon your own work. And what you see here, for example, on the right is one of the organizations I'm currently working with, Cell Migration Standards Organization, which basically is trying to build up this set portfolio of libraries to deal with open software and open data for cell migration research, which is a subfield of cell biology. And then last but not least, I would like to talk about publication. So we do a lot of work, we try to answer specific questions, and then at a certain point we are ready to write everything up in a manuscript, in an article, and to disseminate and communicate this to the community. Now, if you want for people to have more chances that people will actually find your work and will be able to read your work, to criticize for good and for bad your work, then you should definitely go open access. So I try to publish all my articles open access. For example, there are even for some publishing companies or some publishing platforms that are not open access by default. There are a few sister journals like Scientific Reports for the Nature Publishing Group or Nature Communications, which are open by default. And most of the times, I also do preprints. So preprints basically is another way to open up your research or to open up a specific aspect of your research, even way before you actually want to put it in a defined piece of article for scientific dissemination. So in this particular case, I'm showing you a preprint that I published in January in PeerJ preprint. As the tag here says, this is not peer-reviewed, but it's actually very cool because it has already received 4 or 5 feedback online, and these are not official peer reviews, but they come from the generic public. So this means 2 things. This means, first of all, that the article has received a lot of visibility even before going to a traditional publishing system, and second of all, that it has gathered enough attention and feedback to be able for myself to work on a even better version before I actually will submit it to the traditional publishing system in a defined peer review fashion. So these are only a few things that you can do. So manage and share and archive your data. Keep your research materials and your research methods, for example, code open and available online. And when you want to put everything inside a container because it's ready to be pushed to the community, try to go open access and free, because this is fair, first of all, but it's also good for yourself and for your career. And as I think Ivo will mention later on, this also increases the chance for a panel of examinators to try to understand and to try to assess how much outreach and visibility your research is going to have. So it will also increase the chances for you to indeed get your research ideas granted. And with this, I think I'm done. Thanks, you.
Excellent. Thank you, Paola. So there you have it. You've heard it from someone who's actually practicing preaching. The reasons why you should care as a researcher, there are many. We tried to list them, some of them here, spanning from simple visibility of your research, which I guess you all want, all the way to economic growth, which is relevant to when you're applying for some of these big European grants. They require explicit mention and link of what actions you're going to take to make sure that you're not putting barriers for your research to be exploited in ways other than what you anticipated. But one particular issue that has really raised its head again lately is reproducibility. And this is something we should all care about if we are involved in research. If our research is not reproducible, all the other benefits are really irrelevant. If open science can really contribute to this, then it becomes a useful tool. Reproducibility and open science has been discussed as a link for some time. Here's an example from 5 years ago now, and it comes from computer sciences. But it's relevant really no matter which discipline you're in, as Paola just really covered that spectrum end to end. even if we go in forward mode to just last January, here's an example of a discipline that potentially touches all of us in some way, directly or indirectly. Here is a study that tried to quantify what percentage of the research is actually reproducible. And that poses a question: if even a small percentage of our research is not reproducible, then what is the socioeconomic effect of that? Some research is just to push the boundaries of knowledge and for curiosity-driven, but a lot of the research actually touches our lives in very measurable terms. So it becomes a rather sticking point. I'm just going to flash you a couple of more examples of how we can link potentially reproducibility with concrete socioeconomic loss. This comes from an analysis done by the European Commission itself. There's a number of these published in the last few years. All of them are done basically to underpin and stress the link between the work done in the lab and the socioeconomic impact that the researchers, the research funders, want out of us as applicants. Now, I guess most of you, or all of you, in research performing organizations, many of you are probably close to working with industry and business, all this talk of disclosure by now is probably setting off all the wrong alarms in your head. Are there any conflicts with intellectual property rights and the way research is done for commercialization? And the two concepts can initially be at conflict, but there are many areas where there are synergies and can be exploited. This is not just coming out of open science advocates. There's a very good recent review done by one of the leaders in open innovation. In this particular report, which is, I think, 15 or 16 pages, you get a very good summary of where you can expect real conflict and where you can capitalize on synergies between standard ways of patenting and handling IPR and full disclosure using all of the open science practices. So you don't have to start from scratch. There's definitely a very useful list of advice to follow. The Commission itself, if you're going for European grants, they also propose a very simple workflow in the sense that knowledge destined for patenting and knowledge destined for academic dissemination can be split based on a data management plan early on in the project. Data management plans are now, of course, part of European funding instruments requirements. It's one of the first deliverables that we will have to produce. And in many cases, all of the potential conflict between IPR handling and open science can be dealt very much at design stage of the project or at onset of project. So that whenever knowledge, foreground knowledge is destined for academic dissemination, at that time, all of the open science disclosure practices and lessons can be applied with minimum conflicts in affecting IPR. So does this all matter to proposal evaluation? I guess this is really why you're here. This is the core of the webinar. So the next slides are really jumping into an idealized proposal structure and trying to give you some concrete advice on how we have applied this in previous proposals. So if we look at the actual structure of an average proposal, at least at the European level in Horizon 2020, you will be familiar with these three sections: sections of excellence, a section of impact, and a section on implementation. Now, When we started this exercise 2 years ago, we expected that open science is directly relevant just to impact because it was already explicit in the template. Since that time, only this January, in fact, there's another mandate on covering open data. And they're covered they're mentioned in the impact section. What practice taught us, however, is that when you use open science to design your research question and your research method, then you can actually provoke and collect points across all 3 sections. And I'm going to show you some examples. So let's go through the whole standardized application. At excellence level, what can you say? What you see here is not really my recommendations. This is basically text that we have included in proposals in the last 6 to 12 months. And they are from either Marie Curie initial training network, some of them from the individual fellowship applications, but most are from large research and innovation consortia. These vary from 3 to 9 or more million, and they could have tens of partners across Europe. So this is really where the examples come from. Two I mentioned here are really to point that open science can be used as part of the methodology, and in the sense that you're optimizing reproducibility, traceability of all your results, should they need to be independently validated post or during the project, but also for socioeconomic impact. And we'll develop that concept later on in the impact section. Another example, again from Marie Curie, Initial Training Networks. This particular proposal we worked with, they chose proactively to have a bespoke open science course as part of the young trainees program. And that course wasn't delivered as a standalone on its own, but it was delivered in tandem with business and innovation training and training on IPR, so that the 2 concepts can be applied optimally in synergy, rather than the trainees expected to know one concept and then a second concept, but not know how to implement both in perfect synergy. So that was a very positive example from the consortium. If we move on to impact, impact is traditionally structured in 2 subsections. One is how do you answer the call or the work program, but also how do you maximize the impact. And traditionally, this is where we had advised consortia and applicants to use open science for optimum impact, simply because as part of the instructions of the template, it was already suggested of what you might do. We know what the template requires. It requires socioeconomic impacts targeting markets. And it also suggested some ways you might want to maximize impact. And these include plan for your dissemination of your results, plan for the exploitation, think of exactly what are your end users and how you might profile them. But also it went as specific as having a research data management plan for verification and reuse of the results and the data and the software or whatever output your project might actually produce. And in a way, research data management plan can be viewed as a knowledge management plan. It's the diagram that I showed you earlier that forks the foreground knowledge into knowledge that is targeted for pure research dissemination and knowledge that might actually have to be protected and cornered for commercial exploitation. And then on top of those 2, you might actually have a knowledge strategy of how to disseminate and outreach to various stakeholders beyond your specified end user. So what concretely can we do in those? Here are just 3 examples. The very first one has chosen a full disclosure of research results to optimize socioeconomic impact. That will be done following a data management plan, which is now the very first deliverable of most projects by default, by requirement. And that is designed in full synergy with the IPR needs project, or you could say here, the exploitation plan. And they have included here also the consortium agreement, showing knowledge that just winning the application is not the end of the work here, and it's a process that you have to apply throughout the life cycle of the project. The second example, the project and workflow is designed to optimize contribution to open innovation and transfer of research to non-academic users and the sector. Open science in this context is framed as a tool to fuel open innovation. So you can imagine open science as a pipeline or a mechanism to transfer all of the results from the lab to the marketplace. Whether you see a direct use for them or not is really not the question. The question is, are you removing all the barriers for that to happen? Are you allowing the private sector, the knowledge-based sector, to use the data and the software and the knowledge you produce in a different way that you anticipated? And of course, all that gathers the favorable return from the evaluators. The very last example, open science will be applied as a passive knowledge transfer tool, on top of which a technology transfer and a communication strategy will be deployed to reach specific end users. So now this is really an example of how open science strategy can be one of the many tools that a project could have to build that pipeline and link lab and marketplace. If we jump to the last section of an average proposal, it's the implementation. It's the part that most scientists don't find interesting, and most evaluators look for easy errors. So in this part of the project, of the application, this particular projects have chosen to include statements like this. The project includes the competent partners, stating them, of course, to handle, archive, and storage large data sets if your research happens to be data intensive. And statements like this need, of course, to be backed up with resources, so appropriate percentage of the budget is allocated to data management, considering the expertise, the salary, and effort, and e-infrastructure costs or needs required to optimize access and use during, but also post after the project. So all of that is great, but I can hear somebody saying, where is the evidence that it actually brings the money home? So the next few slides are really no comment slides. I will run through them slowly. You're welcome to read them and make your own conclusions, whether that's convincing or not. All of the slides will be available through SlideShare, and you're welcome to come back with questions now or in the future if you want to deal with this. So here are some extracts from EC evaluations since 2014, and they are split per section. And so you can see what the evaluators did like or did not like, and you can use all of those lessons to refine and adjust any future proposals you're thinking of submitting. Now this is a very mixed bag of comments that goes through those sections. If I can just zoom in into the impact section, and these are positive comments. You can see the reviewers liked dissemination to the scientific community, which was a surprise. We thought that was our job by default anyway, but apparently when it is done well, it can provoke a positive comment. And on top of that, building very smart dissemination and exploitation strategy also provokes positive comments. The last one, you can see that, as Paula mentioned, evaluators do like what Paula does. So do copy her. And just another slide of evidence of impact. Again, all of these comments are direct extracts from evaluation reports, various funding instruments. And some of them are discipline specific, but could definitely extract lessons for your own applications. So that's really it. It's a short webinar, and it was really more to show you the evidence rather than how to do it in detail. I hope Paula's example that it can be done and how it is done on a daily basis has been inspiring. And we have 25 minutes to delve into detail as much as you like. Please type your questions into the main chat, and the organizer, Alexis, will highlight the ones that are most frequent. So with that, thank you very much. You'll find all the slides on SlideShare, and the reason I'm not sharing them in any other format is that we can update them based on your feedback. So that way you have a single source that is updated as we work on the product. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions. Okay, while we're waiting, I can see one question coming up on the chat. John Mathieson, what about using a blog or Twitter to update the work being done on the project? Any thoughts on that? It's definitely a useful tool. Before I answer the question in specifics, I would say my take-home message from Paola Masuzzo's presentation is that you need to find tools that work for you. You will find many summaries of what open science tools are out there to optimize the visibility of your research at every step of the process. There is a vast array, a cloud of tools. Some of them are very involving, more than others. I would say find a tool that works for you. And that's the take-home message. As regard to blogs and social media, it has been a very effective tool, of course. And for those of you familiar with altmetrics, the altmetrics allows you to really see the societal attention on anything you produce and publish with DOI. So you can imagine publishing a paper and then, of course, explaining into a blog what it actually means and to whom. And you can even build shorter messages using social media to visually present some of the research or just place it into context. All of that is has been used in research grounds. It doesn't always provoke, of course, positive comment because it fits into a bigger communication strategy. Just blogging and tweeting doesn't necessarily make an effective communication strategy, but they're definitely effective tools. So I'll answer the question. Okay, Axel has a question. It's not clear for me if the simple publication on the internet is already considered as open science, or if it has to comply with further requirements, like a publication in the official journal page. Well, first of all, you have to publish through a journal that fits your needs as a scientist. The second step is to make it open. If you just put a PDF on your CV webpage, that's not really an effective way of applying open science. And as Paula mentioned, she's republishing her postprints into an archive. Why isn't a CV webpage into your university an effective way to share? Because it is temporary, and it is also difficult to search. If you want to understand the issue in a different way, I challenge you to make a literature review by not using any of the centralized literature tools and just use people's CV pages, and you will get an appreciation of the problem. So, yeah, just sharing the PDF of your publications it's not really an effective means. It's difficult to measure, and there are also copyright issues. So, if you write that in a proposal, it will quickly come out as a very simplistic one, disseminating research. I hope that answers your question. Any others? Okay, Clara Lujan, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Which are the main cliches when writing the dissemination part of H2020 project, and how to avoid them? I think the biggest cliche is we will write press releases, and that will reach the main media, and we'll get coverage on the TV, and that is great return on investment for funder. Of course, that is a useful tool, but it needs to be part of a bigger picture. And how do you avoid that? Well, write more than just that. Have an array of tools, an array in which press releases is just one tool. And press releases are great for targeting the main media. It's a shotgun approach. You're not targeting anyone specifically. You are going for the media as a whole. Maybe it will get picked up, maybe it won't. But you also need finer tools. Disseminating your research to a specific users. You need to profile who cares about your research, segment that profile, and for each segment have a tool like social media or press releases or more intelligent and involved strategies that help you digest the research and match the needs of the likely end user. You don't have to have all the answers, but just showing that you have thought that way at application gains your point. You don't have to have all the answers, and in fact, you can say that the detailed dissemination exploitation plan will be the first thing that you create as a project. That is fine, but at application, you have to show that you have thought about who cares about your research and how they might be able to be reached. That's important. I hope that answers the question. And Juan Carlos, what would be the main obstacles to making science open to the public? I need to rely on Paola Masuzzo here. What are the main obstacles? It depends, I guess, on who you are. And at the moment, copyright is big on the political agenda. If we take it from the point of view of yourself as a young researcher, I would say just instead of trying to think how can I make everything 100% open, focus on what in your current workflow creates barriers. From the point of view of reproducibility or peer review, can all of your colleagues or family uh, examine all the work that you did from end to end and validate it or criticize it? And if the answer is no at any stage, then we are not being open enough. I think if we change our thinking to that, then automatically our science is open to public if you want to invite citizen scientists to join in the process and contribute. So yes, Paula confirms. That is the $1 million question. I think there will be 1,000,001 answers depending on who you are. Carlos likes it. Okay, great. Any other questions? Yes, Paola Masuzzo mentions that attention should really be shifted to reward and benefits. Yes, maybe this is a good way to end on a positive note. So, on rewards and benefits, at the moment, you're rewarded on how many papers you publish and how many times you get cited. There is no reward for doing the work that Paola really showed you earlier, being transparent and open and documenting everything well for traceability and reproducibility. There is no explicit reward for that. However, that would change. There are two projects, which are research projects, on finding the right algorithm to give you the 10-year reward if you were to do what Power does in the future, right? So I imagine you're a young scientist and will be in your mid-career in 5 to 10 years. I can promise you that there will be at least one algorithm that offers ways to do that. And I'm ready to bet that in 5 years' time, the way research evaluations are done will be very different from how many patents you have, how many papers you have, and how many times they have been cited. So behavior like what did you do to transfer the results will count.
Is it better now? Okay. Wait, I will go back. So, Ivo was talking about a shift in rewards for open science skills, and most likely that this will happen in the next 5 years. And I totally agree. Hopefully, this will happen before the next 5 years. But yeah, there should be this shift in talking about the benefits rather than the burdens and the obstacles. And to move on with the other question that Clara had, how to cope with the processing fee to publish open access. And then something related, somebody asked, is it possible to use some budget in the project proposals to make open the articles in relevant journals? Is that an eligible cost? That is a great question. I'm not sure I have an answer for that. So first of all, open access sometimes comes with an extra publication fee because it really depends on the target that you're trying to publish in. So if you make open access with, for example, an embargo of 6 of 12 months, an embargo period of 6 of 12 months. This means that you can still put, for example, you can go for a green open access where you put your pre-publication in a public repository or an institutional repository, and then after 6 of 12 months your article will by default go open access, and for that you will not have to pay extra money. The other route is the gold open access, which basically means that if you want your paper, your manuscript to be published in a specific journal from the very beginning with an open access license, that means you need to pay extra money, and sometimes these fees can be very, very high. So I do understand why people that say, okay, open access costs me more. In the long term, it doesn't cost you more. It also depends on the strategy that you follow to make open access happen. Now, I'm not sure that in the H2020 proposals there is budget dedicated to the open access. I'm afraid I don't have an answer to this because I don't know exactly the new framework, how it works. It is for sure that in the dissemination part of the proposal you have to have a plan on how you're going to make open data and open access come true. So most likely there will be a justification section of extra budget spent on publication purposes for open access fees. But again, I do not have this answer 100%. I hope this, I really tried to cover for Ivo, which most likely will have would have had a better answer for me at this stage. Yeah, I hope this helps a bit, or perhaps we can still ask Ivo later on a bit more specific answer to the question. I see people are typing, so I'll give it. Okay, so the processing fees are covered by the H2020 budget. So there must be a justification section indeed for the extra fees. That's what I sort of assumed, but I was not 100% sure about it. Okay, I'm glad to see that this helped. Yeah, it was my pleasure. I guess there are no more questions. And I also suppose we have definitely lost Ivo. So to wrap it up, now I'm also going to have to improvise a wrap up. I was absolutely not prepared to this. Okay, so the slides for future reference will be made available, I guess, both on the EAR and the Foster websites through a link, public link to the slides. And there will be also the Twitter handle of Ivo. Most likely we can add my Twitter handle as well, and you can definitely use those to keep in touch if you have more question afterwards. And let's see if I'm missing something. Alexis, maybe you should say so. Otherwise, I think we are ready to close the webinar. Perfect. All right, I'm ending the event now. Thank you everybody for joining. Bye.